Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of Toy Geeks, an evening with Orko and Gwildor. Yes, we have the voice actors to the two wonderful characters from the new season of Masters of the Universe Revolution. And let's not waste any time. Let's bring out our first guest. He's been on the show before, dear friend to the channel, executive producer, and the voice of Gwildor. No, it wasn't Bill Shatner. It's good friend, Teddy Biaselli. Teddy, welcome.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing William today. Super pumped to talk with you about the show.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that it's out because honestly, can I tell you what it was like to sit on that for 2 years? 2 years? And
Yeah.
As soon as we announced Bill, like it was the thing was, oh, they're gonna think he's Gwildor. All right, let them think that. Let them think that.
Yep. And even when you told, like, back at Comic-Con, I think you told me
because I may have had a drink or two.
What were those grape drinks? They're very good.
They were terrible. They were terrible. It was Kool-Aid and booze. That's all it was.
It worked. All right. But anyway, yeah, super pumped to have you here. All right, we bring in our next guest. First time ever. What's that?
Was the Gwildor show.
Who's
your other guest?
This is going to be awkward, especially just considering the kind of the butting heads conflict of the season.
It's not Griffin, is it?
It is Griffin. There it is. Oh, they're fighting. Oh.
Victorious. Who's standing tall now, huh?
All of the short jokes, so funny.
Yeah.
Damn it. I thought this was the Gwildor show. That's how you sold it, Jay. You know what that makes this? A bait and switch.
Oh,
unfortunately, we're a double act now. It's like Martin and Lewis. We can't be separated, even if the last thing we want to do is work together.
I love it. We're like Roxy and Velma in Chicago.
Exactly.
We're totally going on the road. We're like a vaudeville team.
It'd be great if there could be like an unboxing video of you all talking about the action figures, because you're a 2-pack. You're a 2-pack.
Are a 2-pack. I mean, come on. If you would have told me, first of all, if you would have told 10-year-old Teddy, who just walked out of Masters of the Universe movie, that one day Gwildor would be in an animated series, I probably would have kicked you and said, why would you do that? But then if you would have talked to 24-year-old Teddy that was just starting his voiceover career and said, hey, one day you're going to be the voice of Gwildor, I would have said, that's ridiculous. And then cut to 40-year-old Teddy, and there we are.
But not only did it, Teddy, but killed it, crushed it.
Thank you.
Absolute perfection.
Thank you.
My
favorite review so far was somebody who said that I used too many Gwildorisms, and I was like, "What were the Gwildor?" I think I said Torkdoms once.
Yeah.
And I think I said Glondork.
Yes, there's Glondork. Yep.
Also, if anyone's going to use Gwildorism, shouldn't it be Gwildor?
I thought that, anyway, that was fun. That was
the first time Gwildor has gotten a talk in like 30 years. Let him be Gwildor.
35 years.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was very fun.
I do think, Jay, you're calling out an important point, which is the only previous Orco in Masterverse came with the Savage HeMan. And that was packaged as Savage HeMan with Orco. He got like accessory billing. I do like that this is a gentleman's 2-pack. This is equal billing.
Now
you've moved up.
Yeah. And I'm graciously allowing Gwildor to share the bill with me.
If only someone had a Revelation
Orco.
What?
Classic Orco.
Okay, but is that 3D printed? Did you make that yourself?
It is 3D printed, but
how do you make him look so good? This is
this
where
guy
it's
right
like,
here. I painted that guy. Look at how good look at those eyes. I'm really proud of those eyes.
Because that's the third. I'm missing the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, id, ego, super ego. I got my 2 Orcos on my nightstand. I need the 3rd.
Well, because it was neat. There was a little flashback, pre-coronation for Tila, and we had the classic Orco look there for like a brief moment. I was like, oh, nice. But actually, maybe that'll be my first question, Griffin. Like, what's your preferred look? Because personally, I think Orko the White is a badass, and I really love the look.
I agree. Yeah, it's my favorite. I feel like it's a lame answer, you know? Like, I do. No, what were you gonna say? Sorry.
I was saying, but he's just like, I don't know. He just has the sash that like do whatever the hell he wants. Yeah. He's taken down. Like poor Stondar can go against the Horde, but like Orko's out there just throwing Leech down, throwing Grizzlor down, and like making it happen.
The scarf I feel like is a big game.
I know, being a badass.
Yeah, the scarf's a game changer because he's always had the capacity to be powerful.
Yes.
Via magic, even if previously sometimes he fudged the execution, right? He didn't quite nail the spells as he wanted.
Yeah.
But he's always been limited in terms of what he physically could accomplish in a tangible form. He's a little guy. He's got short arms, what have you. Yeah. I like that the scarf gives him another appendage where he can be casting magic and then also kind of whipping around, collecting people.
All right, enough about his appendage and whipping people. I mean,
I'm talking about this. I'm talking about
the scarf. No, I will say just because my youngest son Alex, he's small for his age, like 0.5 percentile height wise, and he's very self-conscious about his size. But he loves Orko, and I think like especially watching this season, I just think Orko represents, and I tell him like, I'm sorry, son, you're of smaller stock. Whatever happens. You're perfectly fine.
Please let him know, by the way, that I could relate.
yeah. But it's just so right. Like I don't think any of us are particularly tall.
Couple short kings on this.
But anyway, it was really cool. I think it actually leads into my first question, because something that I loved about Revelation was the kind of the world that the HeMan story allowed, growth and development for, these other characters. And Orko had an incredible storyline. I think I've told you that directly, and I've said it on the show before, where you had Orko as we knew him, and then he had this beautiful story arc in the 3rd episode, and he sacrifices himself to save his friends, and he comes back as Orko the White. But now that, he is this powerful, or like his fully realized version of Orko, something I think you did really well was still having that kind of silly Orko-ness to him. How did you balance both this season? Because it did work really well, I thought.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was certainly my biggest concern. It felt like the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
And especially because Orko the White only came in at the end of episode 10.
Exactly. So you just be a badass at that point. You didn't still have to be Orko,
Yeah, and he also in the end of episode 10 of Revelation, he doesn't talk that much. He sort of has his chunk of dialogue when he reemerges, announces himself, and then he's in the middle of the final battle.
Lines in episode 5 when he goes, "You guys are in trouble now."
Yeah,
but there's that, and there's the sort of thing to Evil Lynn of when you brought them back, you brought something else back as well. There's a line like that. But
that line went through so many iterations, by the way.
Yes, that was the other thing.
Overthought that line.
Oh, really?
The reason I can't remember that line is because I did 27 different wordings of that line.
Was when you raised hell, you
right?
Raised me too.
Yes.
Okay. And then I said, I said, wait, does that mean Orko was in Orko was damned? Why was he damned? And I was like, no. Like, was he dead? I was like, oh, when you raise the dead, you raise me too. I was like, but Orko's not dead. He was in a state of transcendentalism. Yeah. Or like that's and we overthought that line so much.
Well, it worked because it was a really moving reading. But so you had to take all those readings to get it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So there were only those handful of lines, and then most of his stuff once he's back as Orko the White in that episode is fighting.
Yep.
Which it was easier just go, what are slightly more confident spell sounds?
Yes.
Right? But the dialogue, it was hard to do of how do you make Orko a little bit of a badass without feeling like you're betraying who he was.
Yeah.
And I felt like he could be powerful without being. You move too far away and it becomes a little unrecognizable.
Yeah.
And so there were only a couple of those lines in that episode, which a lot of trial and error. Thanks to rewrites, I got many at-bats to figure out how to get there.
Yeah.
But then I think in the time between season 1 and season 2, I did, it's like you sing in the shower and you practice Orco in the mirror. You just do some exercises of like trying to find. It's just, it's, adjusting the dial and going, how do you make him feel just a little more at ease with himself, I think is what it is, because it's like, I don't necessarily want him to be cocky, because I think that's when he stops sounding like Orco.
Yeah.
But he has to sound a little bit more empowered.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a thing that actually helped with it is that Gwildor annoys him so much.
Yes.
That Gwildor destabilizes him. So I didn't have to just do a full season of Orco feels confident. He's like, got it figured out.
Moment of, just when I thought I got my mojo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This guy comes in here and
and
he's literally cutting me down to size. No, not a pun. Like that's literally what he's doing. And it's like they're both overcompensating. Both of these little Napoleons are overcompensating. Yeah. And the reality is both of them are fully capable. They are in a lot of ways the best at what they do.
Yeah.
And it's just, they see a little bit in the other what the other one could be, and they have that kind of little insecurity there. That was, by the way, that was all Tim. Tim really
smart
into that. In fact, the line where Man-at-Arms says, actually, you two are a lot alike.
Yes.
There was an even more like explicit thing where I think Man-at-Arms says something like, oh yeah, he's like, we went on an adventure before. One that
that line. So it's like, oh, it's canon. This is canon. The movie is canon, or to a certain degree.
Why not?
I loved it. I loved it.
I mean, someone else was asking me my read on why they have such animosity for each other, and I'm like, that's it right there. There's this great adventure he keeps on hearing about. The one time they went to Earth is the one time he wasn't invited. It's not like they took like Mechanic instead of him. They took the guy who's like him.
Yep.
That's it.
But yeah, no, I think it helps that even though we have a couple episodes of Orko feeling himself as Orko the White up until that point, I think it's like he leads with kindness, right? Mm-hmm. That's a big thing. Even if he's more confident, I view it less as he's more confident and more as he has less doubt, if that makes sense. I don't know if I negated myself 15 times in that one sentence.
No, I think you nailed it. I think it's
right.
It may not be confidence, but I think he doesn't second guess himself the way he
exactly.
Yes.
Right. Yep. And so it can be, you remove a little bit of that sort of like the second guessing.
Yep.
But he's still someone who's going to operate from a position of kindness, wanting to help his friends, wanting to look out for others, wanting to be helpful, which now he thinks he is doing, as opposed to before when he'd always present an attempt at something.
Oh, I got it. Oh, wait.
I always describe it as Fozzie Bear energy, where it's like my favorite part of the Muppet Show was before Fozzie Bear would do his routine, when he'd go up to Kermit and he'd be like, this one is going to kill. This is the best routine I ever have. And Kermit's like, I think there are a couple things you haven't thought through. And even when he's trying to talk himself up, there's this part of him that's like, I might bomb. And then he goes out and he bombs so quickly. And I feel like Orko and Man-at-Arms in particular always had that sort of dynamic of Orko being like, please leave space. I'm about to do something incredible. And Man-at-Arms, Duncan's kind of got his arms crossed. And the second it goes wrong, Duncan's like, I told you. And I feel like with Gwildor, Orko gets to sort of be the Duncan in that dynamic where he's waiting for Gwildor to misstep so he can be like, I told you, you're silly.
Yeah. And the dynamic is so good. It's so much fun. And tapping into that a little bit, Teddy, like Billy Barty's Gwildor is a fan favorite. Like, and to
not at first. I think we all, when we were kids, we were like, who the hell is this? Where is Orko? I think we were all a little disappointed, but the beautiful glasses of nostalgia warm your hearts. And I think we grew up, that was the only live action version of HeMan.
Yeah.
And it became part of the joy of it all. Yeah. And I think that, we learn to appreciate
Yeah.
his taste for ribs. We learned to you know, understand and appreciate his cow calls and
Yeah.
you know, all his little quirks. And I think over time it became affection. That
Yes.
sort of
Yeah.
apathy or resentment.
Yeah.
It's either I don't care about this character or I hate that it's not Orko, becomes, oh my God, I love you for who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Yep.
that's one of the joys and what we didn't want to do with this, and what we tried to do across the entirety of the series was make sure that the essence of those things that make that character special are intact.
Yes.
And and I tell this story a few times, but you'll be the first one to hear it live. When they pitched us the show, right?
Yeah.
Tim and Kevin pitched me the show, and this is like,
Yeah.
okay, we had the big, you know, tent poles. It's like, okay, we know this was going to happen. We know this
Yeah.
is going to happen. We know this is going to happen. We know this is going to happen. Go off and go write the outlines for the episodes. Then they came back and then they pitched the episodes.
Yeah.
And in that pitch, Kevin says, so Adam's going to realize that when he's He-Man, the motherboard virus does not penetrate the power. That something in that is stopping him, and the sword itself repels it. So he knows he has to amplify that sword, and who better to amplify the power with technology than Gwildor? And I went, oh, I'm not a Tortum, you know. I wouldn't build a device that didn't store its home coordinates. And I did that as like a joke. Yeah. And then I immediately went to, oh my God, who could we cast as Gwildor? Yeah. And Kevin was like, well, I think we found our Gwildor. And I was like, no. We'll get a great Gwildor. We'll get somebody. And I'm like racking my brain, who could be that Gwildor? And at some point, it just became sort of like a fait accompli that I was going to be Gwildor. And I kept saying, look, thank you. I'm flattered. I'm excited. I wanted it. It's great. If for whatever reason we are not happy with this performance, and I will be the harshest critic of it, if we are not happy with it, I am totally fine recasting it and getting somebody in there. And it just, what started to happen was people kept saying, oh my God, you're Gwildor, dude. Like Adam were like, wait a minute, that's you? And I was, I guess it's working. I guess it's okay.
That's what because it's like, again, I know you, like we're friends and I know your voice, and it's like you're lost in that, because I couldn't glean like a small minuscule of you. You were Gwildor throughout the whole thing.
Awesome. One of my best friends, Chris, was over, and we were watching the whole thing, and he was like, oh my God, Gwildor is amazing. He's like, who is that? and I looked at him, I was like, real? I was like, is he good? And he's like, he's great. Who is that? And I was like, it's me, Chris. And he was like, no, who is it? I was like, Chris, it's me. And he was literally sitting right next to me on the couch.
So I think that's your answer. It worked out really well. But it's a daring thing. It's a daring thing to be like, I'm taking, like, directly continuing, you know, this
which was
character.
One of the other reasons why I was very, very adamant that I wasn't part of the announcements. The project. I didn't want it to. I wanted people to see Gwildor in the show and appreciate Gwildor for who Gwildor is. It's not for me to sort of take that away from Gwildor. Sure. That was what I wanted for the thing. And then this great side benefit of all that was people started thinking Shatner was Gwildor.
Yes.
And I was like,
which worked perfect.
That's exactly perfect. That's exactly what we want. Especially Mega J last week. He was like, oh, I'm a little worried about Shatner.
That's what I was like, I love Shat, but he just doesn't have that Billy Barty energy. I was like, I know, it's awful.
Everybody was like, so funny. Definitely Granomir. He's definitely Gwildor.
I was gonna say the last year and a half of just every time there was any leak or whisper or product reveal or anything about any new character, people were like, well, 100% that's who Shatner's playing. And just sit back and read the comments and go like, no one's getting close.
Yes.
Because similarly, I remember Kevin telling me what the plan was for the new season. Yeah. And he's similar to the story you just told, teed up the Gwildor thing. Yeah. Knowing I'm a big fan, and went, so they go to Gwildor. And I went, that's not possible. I didn't think that was a thing you could do. creatively, legally, whatever. And then similarly, he said, we got Shatner to play the new big bad. And I said, is Shatner playing Hordak? And he went, Keldor. And I my mind had to reconstruct itself.
We were so close, by the way. We were so close. We were 3 weeks away before
I know.
So close.
I was like,
I refused because the toy was on. I was like, I refuse to share this because just and actually I didn't even really, sometimes with spoil.
Teddy's about to really show off. If you want to see,
so good.
Hold on, I gotta make you big here. Hold on.
Look at how good he is. Look at him.
But you have the other one.
The other one. What other?
That's the one, isn't it? From this wave?
Do you not have the sign?
No. Griff was there when Mr. Shatner, Bill, as he likes to be called, signed my Keldor action figure. That's in my office at work.
Okay.
Oh, that's cool.
I thought that's cool. Let's bring out. Yeah, but incredibly cool.
But let's talk about that for a little bit. Get away from Gwildor Orko. Keldor, anybody that's a MOTU fan knows the Keldor Skeletor story, right? And even the CGI show kind of made a play at that. 2000X show made a play at that. Comics made a play at that. But I gotta say, even as a MOTU fan, I was just like, the second there was Skeletech, and they were in the same scene, I was like, okay, so we're taking a different angle. I wonder, how this will play off or whatever. It's like, we'll see what happens. I was like, I still don't trust him. But then when there's the reveal, it's like, oh wait, no, it's a disguise. And then it's also Skeletor realizing that, oh, he actually is Keldor. It was played off really well. But I think the coolest part, and I think I told you this, Teddy, offline, the fact that you got Captain Kirk and Luke Skywalker to be going head to head against each other. It's so brilliant. It's so good.
That was one of the best meetings that we had, was when Kevin, Rob, and I were on the phone and we were talking about Keldor and the casting of Keldor. And it was truly just 3 friggin' nerds going, who could be the one? Because what we didn't want to do, we really wanted to go at least a full episode without people thinking that this character was already Skeletor, right?
Yeah.
And
it worked.
And to the point where we were like, look, if Mark does the voice, it's just good. Everybody's just going to know that they're the same character.
Yes.
And it doesn't validate what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And then we said, but it's got to make sense who that voice would be. And Keldor's a charmer. Yeah. He is the politician. He's suave. He's the one who has all of the, the silver tongue at his disposal. And what we wanted to do was truly deliver the antithesis of Skeletor in that moment. And we were like, well, who should play Keldor?
Yeah.
And I said, well, what would be fun? What if we got Shatner? And actually, I might have said something like, well, if you got Luke Skywalker, then maybe you get, and I think Rob went Han Solo. And I went, think bigger. And Rob went, Shatner? Because Rob is the biggest Star Trek fan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Rob went, Shatner? And I was like, it kind of makes sense, right? And Kevin's like, I did a panel with the guy. He's really cool. Really cool. He's like, let me give him a call. And Kevin, the way he pitched it to him, and Bill was like, well, that sounds really interesting. I don't know who this character is. I'm not a big Masters of the Universe fan, but I'm really engaged in where the story's going. And by the way, what you don't know about Mr. Shatner, when you get him, yes, we are privileged to have him read.
Sure.
But we also get Mr. Shatner reading the entire script.
What?
When he comes in to record.
This is his process.
He doesn't just come in and read his lines.
Yeah.
He reads the stage directions.
No way.
The other parts. Yeah. And he reads the other parts with intention.
Right.
And then he goes back and he does Keldor. And then he reads
one
Skeletor's
starts
part,
with
and then he does Keldor's part.
Exterior, Snake Mountain. He reads the whole thing, every word, and that's a take.
Literally,
take 2, he goes back to page 1.
You're like this.
Oh,
it is
okay.
Magical.
I know we're in a world where, blue DVD extra features, Blu-ray extra features, but I assume this is recorded because I want to experience
I may
this.
have some on my phone.
That sounds incredible.
I may have some on my phone. It was funny because when we did some of our BTS stuff, you know, now that the show was out and live.
Yeah.
But when we were talking to Shatner about it, he was really getting into the concept of Keldor, and he's like, what if Keldor, the real Keldor, behind the face, like what if the face comes off, and now he's Keldor, and what is the machinations there? And we're like, Bill, that's what happens. He goes, I know,
Skeletor.
I read the script. Like he's 92, 93.
That's what was so. Oh, yes.
Sharp as it. First of all, he drives himself wherever he goes.
Really?
Drives
Good
himself.
Lord.
Drives himself, and just sharp as attack, kind, funny, charming everywhere he goes. Yeah.
But I think that's the thing that impressed me the most, like watching the season, watching his performance as Keldor, is like like to still be locked in your 90s.
It's a really good performance. Like it's not just he is so not doing this, but he could have just coasted on presence.
Yes.
And there would have been enough power just from the sort of like symbolic casting of him.
Yes.
And just at that age, you just wonder. You don't know how much there is in the tank. And then you hear that and you're like, I believe this guy is 40. He is locked in. He is acting this like it's the role of a lifetime.
Yes. When he goes, Hordak bamboozled you into thinking a truth was a lie and a lie's the truth. But we were never meant to rule. We were meant to master the universe. When he did that, we were all in the audience. We were like, holy shit.
Yeah.
This guy.
He's going like full Shakespeare with it. Yeah.
And he literally knew what he was doing. Like when I tell people, you know, now like there's a surprisingly a large contingent of folks who did not like Keldor's inclusion into the mythos, even though it dates back to 1987 and the mini comic. The mini comic established that
Searching for Keldor,
Randor had a brother named Keldor.
Yep.
And that every year they try to search for whatever happened to Keldor. It's a mystery what happened to him. And at the very end, Skeletor says, you know, the heroes should never find the secret of Keldor because it could be my undoing. That's it. That's all they said. Yeah. In 2000s, when they introduced the concept of Keldor, they never explicitly said that Keldor was Randor's brother. Only that they had some sort of history in 2000X. Like when you meet them, there was a history between them, but you never understood they were brothers. In the ancillary material, in the MV Creations comics and in the DC comics, then they explicitly called out Skeletor as being Keldor and Keldor being Randor's brother. And they created the whole sort of like racist undertones with the Gar and all that stuff. And I think people thought that there was a lot of heavy-handedness in that delivery. Be that as it may, what was terrific about the concept of Randor's brother doing something dark to get his throne back, he was a king denied. It's very Thomas Maller, Le Morte Arta. It's very much the way Morgan Le Fay raised Mordred to, you know, you were denied this throne. It is yours by right. And that was fascinating to us. And we don't really deal with any of this sort of like, well, you're blue, you don't get the throne. What we deal with is the fact that he was not Miro's son by royal decree. He was born out of wedlock. There was, and that's just Shakespeare.
Yeah,
and
that just happens. Yeah, exactly.
We had a moment where we discussed making Keldor a Caucasian, you know, person. But because they had done that in the kids show, in the CG show. And we kind of were like, you know what, if we're being honest, all of everything we have done in Revelation and Revolution borrows from a pre-existing story point. Like almost like the only thing we really invented in Revelation was the techno cult and motherboard. Everything else was based on something. So we wanted to start from that here with Revolution. And the reality is we were pulling from Search for Keldor, the 2000X show, and the notion that Keldor and Randor were brothers and he was a Gar. And we were like, let's just make them blue. Let's just own it, but we don't have to make it so heavy-handed and explicit that there is a sort of like a racism across there. Instead, it was an ideological divide. The people, his people don't trust Eternos. They still believe in magic. There was a better path that they chose to follow rather than the Eternos. So that's kind of how we landed it there. But I railed the entire conversation.
It's okay. I did love the I think it's a flashback at the beginning of the second episode between Randor and Keldor, because it made it that they were truly like brothers and they they loved each other, and it was more the parents.
Tim wrote that line. Randor thinks he hung the moons, and I love that line. That is like yes, of course.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, having two young boys, like the older brother, like the younger brother's like, oh, you're like, anything you say, I'm in, let's go. Like, I believe in everything. And so I did think it was a really sweet way to kind of give that context and allow, and not to like sully Randor's name just after he died or whatever. And it just, and I think it did work really, really well.
And we never badmouth Randor. The only time Skeletor does that is towards the end in the last episode when he really talks about it, and HeMan's like, dude, you still think you're a victim? Come on.
Oh, that was so great. In every scenario, in every outcome,
you're always the bad guy. And I was like,
always the bad guy.
That's the essence, because what we didn't want to do was redeem him.
Yes.
Skeletor, it's okay for villains to be irredeemable. And we wanted Skeletor to be irredeemable. He was the one that he made the pact with the devil. We did,
the flashback, you saw it,
like he made the pact with Hordak. Teach me magic.
In the Fright Zone, by the way. Nice Fright Zone reveal there.
Teach me magic so that I can get back my throne.
Yeah.
And Hordak, and look, if you're paying attention, Skeletor says Hordak hates magic because he doesn't understand it. That's why he always needs an acolyte to wield it. And we all know who his most recent acolyte who wields magic is. Skeletor says things like, Hordak has a habit of manipulating memories. Anything that would challenge a servant's blind loyalty is erased. These are all things we pulled from Secret of the Sword, like things that we all know. That was, one of the reasons why we did 5 episodes. And I know I'm waiting for the thing that there's not enough time. There's not enough time. But we really wanted to do like a classic 5-episode mini series.
I will say this, like, because I think I even said after I watched, I was like, I wish, having just done the rewatched the 10-episode Revolution in preparation for this, I was like, I did miss that time that allowed a lot more things to breathe a little bit longer. But on the other side, it plays like a really tight kind of 5-act film in a way. And the thing that I think that also is important, that while I wish it had more time, all of the kind of emotional conclusions at the end of that 5th episode land really well. Like the Granomir death, the training, like that. Even that happened like in one episode, that still landed. That got me a little misty, and like all of those things still landed, even though it was in a shorter amount of time. So I think everything still worked. Like the story still worked.
I wish we had one more episode. Because I think there is some stuff that would have benefited from some more time and meat. But the reality is, where the episodes break, I'm really happy with where the episodes break. I think that now that it's out, obviously the story is not over, especially the story with Horde is not over.
Which again, okay, we're getting some crazy, like, I guess stab wounds, no matter what property, any nerd property, no matter how gory and crazy we make it, you're still gonna live.
If you can walk away from a lightsaber stab multiple times, you're good. I mean, this was just a thing. And
it's canon now. It doesn't matter. You're gonna live.
Well, look, one of the things we want to explore even in the classic mini comics, Hordak manipulating bio-organic life forms, right? Like Dragstore, the Dragstore Extendar, sorry. But even like, and not in, it wasn't directly related to Hordak, but like Twistoid, was on his deathbed, and bioengineering, came in and fix that. So that is all part of what we are trying to do. By the way, if we're ever, if this does super huge, and we want to do a third part, like seeing Horde Prime is he is a giant metal hand as far as we know, or he is a dude with a giant, Kirby head. Like there's kind of a lot of Horde Prime that could be how much of Horde Prime? He's more machine now than man. Like, there's a lot of that we can incorporate there, and what Horde X sort of next step would be.
Griffin, kind of going back to like the listening to the takes and having multiple takes. I'm curious about this, and I'd argue you had some of the most impactful kind of interpersonal rapport between different characters in season 1 and season 2. How as a voice actor, and are you always in the same room together? Are you doing this at separate times? Like how do you actually do a reading that has rapport? Like it's a real natural conversation, even though you might be in different sound booths or different times recording and stuff like that.
Not even in the same time.
Never.
So how the hell do you do that?
I mean, I think part of it truly is the weird magic trick of just collaboration, how it all comes together.
Yeah.
Because I mean, very often I think different people approach voice acting in different ways. Bill Shatner reads the entire script cover to cover.
That's how you build rapport. You just read both lines.
But I find that most shows I've worked on, and no exception here, the voice director, who in this case is Colette Sunderman, who's incredible, will sort of say to you, what's the way you prefer to work, right? What makes you most comfortable? Some people want to do the dialogue back and forth. You're rarely going to get to do it with the actual castmate. But, the voice director can read the lines for you. Do you want me to cue you in? Do you want to take it one line at a time? Do you want to do each line over and over again until you feel like you have it? Do you want to do 3 at a time? Whatever it is. And then you start to go, can you play that one back for me? Let me hear that. Does that sound like what I'm trying to get at? Let me try to adjust it from there. And sometimes they play something back and you go, yep, that's what I was trying to go. Stamp it, good. And sometimes they go, we think that's good enough. And you listen to it and you go, really? I don't think that's going to work. And then you watch it with the animation and the other take, and it just all fits together. There's this degree to which it's like if you're a voice actor, it's like you're carving puzzle pieces without a vision of the entire board. Even if you've read the scripts or seen the designs or know who the other actors are, I heard Teddy was going to play Gwildor, and I went, I can imagine that. I can see what he's going to do. I think I have an idea. And I'm reading the script, and I can sort of anticipate the energy. But you don't totally know until it all comes together. And so part of the weird craft of it is make as many different types of puzzle pieces as possible. It starts to become a process of, it's not quantity over quality, because you want to make everyone as good as it can be. But also a thing I really love about voice acting is if you're on set, what I now call human body acting. my very technical
body acting.
But it's a very stressful environment because it's like everyone has come together in this one moment to hope that everything can work out for one take, right? It's not just that you have to nail your performance, but the other people in the scene.
That's true.
You all have to be in sync with each other, harmonizing, and all the equipment has to work, right? There's not a wardrobe malfunction. The camera move happens at the right time. The light's the right bright, all this stuff. And so it's really like you're trying to get this one moment where everything's lining up. Versus voice acting, it's like, here's your room, here's your time. You're literally just in a box. And it's like, let's keep working on it until we feel like we've got it. And part of what's freeing about the process is you're less working towards one specific end. You're going, I'm going to give you as many pieces as I can, and then hand this off to you. And then there are all these other steps of the process that I'm removed from. You have storyboards now, but you haven't animated. And once you put my voice to the animation, maybe you realize, oh, we need to change the animation to fit what his voice is doing. Or we need to go back and re-record to fit the animation because we thought it would be like this. Or this other actor was doing this, and now it's more interesting. So part of the process becomes And, you know, I lucky now that it's like going into second season. I have a little Orco under my belt. I've gotten a little bit of a handle on how to do them. So you get into a thing like doing the Gwildor scenes, and you're like, let me throw out some takes where I'm really mean.
Yeah.
Let me throw out some takes where I'm a little bit snarky, but it's kind of cute. Let me throw out, and you just need to, it's sort of harvesting all the different options.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, it worked out well because again, just the rapport. That's, I guess, just doing like podcasting stuff for a long time. It's all about playing off of the people that are around you. But transitioning to that, it just seems like another level that I don't understand.
No, it's weird. If I'm dodging a specific answer while talking for too long, it's because it is kind of a weird ephemeral thing. And I think I'm very obsessed with conversational rhythms. Like as a kid who grew up a big comedy nerd, I would just study my favorite movies or comedy albums or shows over and over again and just go like, there's something about the fact that he pauses for half a second there. There's something about the fact that he overlaps on this line or whatever. And so it's definitely a thing I've studied that I think I try to apply when I'm doing voice acting of think about how to, even though I'm just giving my line readings hermetically in a box, make them so they feel like they could flow organically into what the other characters are saying.
I mean, kind of
try at least.
And it works. I think it's fantastic. And like that's
Teddy's not a fan.
It's fine.
He's not a fan. He tries to get me fired once a week.
But speaking of Orco scenes that I hoped would have happened, just because I know Griffin's a big Keith David fan, why no Hordak Orco scenes? I feel like it was missed opportunity. Season 3 needs to happen.
All right. Done.
I agree. I'm pitching it here.
You think Orko should take down Hordak?
Yeah, that's my
He took down the rest of the Horde. Why can't? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
How good is Keith David, though?
Oh my God. I mean,
I'll be honest. Back in Revelation days, when we kept talking about, oh man, if we ever get Hordak, it's Keith David. I said, Rob, there is no discussion here. He is who I hear in my Hordak. Like I'm such a massive fan of that dude. And
who isn't?
There was
he was just trending on Twitter, just be like, how awesome is Keith David? Like that was just the trend. And
then between Keith and Meg, who work together and they live, and then Meg being in, being Evil Lynn in the movie, like, she's also one. And honestly, that's my one regret with the voice cast is like, I usually try to get to the records, as best as I can, especially if they're in LA. But Meg recorded from, I think she lives in Texas, and she recorded via ISDN. So I didn't actually get to sit down and meet Meg Foster, who I'm obsessed with. I think she's just the coolest thing in the world.
I kicked this up. This is a conversational prompt I will throw out in my life, but also I feel like I kick it up on my podcast very often because we did all the John Carpenter movies, so we end up talking about Keith David a lot. A couple years ago, my friend Gabe Wax, out of nowhere, apropos of nothing, just texted, "Best Keith David movie?" ? And I went, well, this is a huge question, because are you asking what is the best film that Keith David is in?
True.
Or what is the best Keith David movie?
Yeah.
And it's two entirely different questions, and both of them are hard to answer, because you're just like, that guy is always great. It's not even that he's always good. He's always great.
Yes.
And he has been great applied in such different ways.
Yes.
In tiny roles, in huge roles, as a badass, as comedic relief, as a villain, as a hero. And you're like, sometimes I'm like, is Something About Mary the best use of him ever? For like 7 minutes. Right? Yes. But then you're like, but is The Thing like the best movie he's in? Is that his best performance because it gives him the most to do?
Yeah.
And you could just spiral on this all day.
The best is when I think the first line that he has, when he laughs, Kevin was like, Keith, could you do me a favor when you're laughing? Could you take in some air and give it a little snort? And Keith was like, really? A snort? And Keith was like, just try it. and we're like, that's it. That's what we're doing, dude. We're doing it. We're doing the snort. And it
worked.
It works. And Kevin loves alliteration. I don't know if you can tell.
Oh,
but
what?
every line that Keith has where it's alliterative, like it just dribbles down and all over the place. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love it. I love that guy.
That's why I need a season 3, just because I need more Keith David as Hordak.
Yes.
And he can get stabbed 7 more times and still be fine.
By Orko.
By Orko, yes.
This time it's by Orko.
Yeah.
That's why it didn't stick, because Orko wasn't fighting him.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think the only people who ever recorded together on our show was Mark and Lena.
Yeah.
I think that was the only time, and it was in season 1 they recorded together.
Gotcha.
And by the way, they were the best together. It was surprisingly, Chris and Melissa never recorded together.
Really? That is surprising.
Except they recorded separately. I think they have a recording studio in their home, and I think
yeah, exactly. I figured that would have, but I can kind of see too where you want to maybe separate it or something. I don't know. But speaking of that, just like the Tila HeMan steaminess in this season, in our live stream, we were talking about like, you know, this like looks that we need as action figures, and everyone agrees that the final form HeMan is the hottest HeMan in the history of HeMan.
So sexy.
Like so sexy.
The hair. Well, when
it's the little ponytail. It's like he's like somehow extra jacked. And anyway,
there is. I mean, I think it looks like one of those books you get at the hair.
Yes.
We have so many different versions of HeMan's hair before we landed on that one. But honestly, it was kind of like, it just looks so good. It has such a great look to it. It feels modern, but yet a throwback, very Viking-y looking. It has like such. And he just looks good. He looked good.
He looks pretty good. And then you got Tila as well. She had the green goddess look, the Ka look.
How sexy is that green goddess look? I may have very early on sent Nate Barch some of the design.
Good, because we all know Nate Barch loves.
Do you like this one or this one? Do you like A or B? And he goes, I like A with a little bit of B over here. And I'm like, okay, done.
I know where the B was. Let's just say that. But I also love too that like that look, that more seductive look, is because like Ka is like that carnal desire magic. So it's like it's not just sexy to be sexy. It's like it's by design of the magic, you know.
We have a document that we use as sort of like our sort of like, this is like the origin of Eternia document, and these are the gods, and this is what the gods did, and these are the high priests of the gods, and the first ones, and all like how it all sort of like breaks down.
Yeah.
And you know, the idea of this sort of like the 3 deities is not new. Rob did this in the DC comics a little bit with Serpos and Horcrux. And Serpos was from the 2000X series. Obviously, Serpos turned to stone, became Snake Mountain. All very cool idea, but we wanted to sort of go way back to the toys and the staff of Ka.
Yeah.
The Havoc staff. The staff of Zor. We're like, they're there. They're already there.
Yeah.
Let's just use that. And then when we talk about, okay, well, what are those gods? And we talked about, you know, Zor being the god of birth, the god of creations, Ka being the god of actually living, and then Havoc being the god of destruction, and Skeletor, the lord of destruction. So you have these sort of like these 3 ideas. You need all of them in order for life itself, for creation, you know, creation, existence, destruction. That is the cycle. And we thought, you know, at some point they all understood that they needed each other. At some point, these 3 gods understood that they needed each other in order for existence to be complete. And then they, as an armistice, the armistice of the 3 towers, they created a place to be a repository of all of their understandings, their wisdoms, their magics. That was Central Tower. Central Tower represented the union of those 3. But we liked the idea that there was a 4th tower.
Yes, I love that scene. It's like, even for me, you know, I'm looking at my attorney, it's like, wait, whoa, there's a 4th one. I just love like Tila, Melissa, there's just like, wait, there's a 4th. It's just like almost at the same time. I was like,
that was one of the things we're like, oh my God, every fan would be like, there's a 4th tower. Like the idea that there was this tower that Havoc, you know, was his keep, his repository. And, you know, like Lucifer cast out. And the 4th tower was, you know, destroyed in ruin. and with no remnant. Of course, there's a remnant of it in Preternia. And
okay. I was thinking in my own head canon, I was thinking, oh, is that Subternia is the remnant of Havoc?
No. So the tower there, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But like Grayskull Tower, there is a room in Grayskull Tower that can go to.
Yes.
Right. There may be one way to get to that. That's kind of like, it's not, there may be a two-way street, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
So, but by the way, all of that, there's all plans for all of that story.
Yeah.
Should we get to it? But we have a real interesting take on all of that stuff. And that's the fun stuff. That's the stuff that's like, I don't think that'll ever get published, but man, isn't it fun to have something that we can all go back to and look at. And because it's not published, as you're building out your story, when you're like, oh man, I wish there was a moment in the past where this happened and that would inform this. And we're like, well, let's add that moment.
Yeah.
Add that moment to that document. It's a living document. We can do that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, the benefit of that sort of thing. And obviously, I think I've said this in a previous interview with you guys too before, when we talked about sort of like the timeline of Eternia when Tila Na became the sorceress.
Yeah.
And how, in our version, one of the few changes we made from the Filmation canon was that she had already given birth to Tila. And that big sacrifice she makes to be the sorceress is to leave her child.
Yeah.
We thought that it really needed something really meaningful. Not that she just like, oh, I got a new job, I'm now head of this castle. It's like, I have to give something up. And in our version, Rob and I talked about this in our very first breakfast. When we first sat down to breakfast to talk about our Master of the Universe, I said, who do you think Tila's father is? And he says, I think it's Man-at-Arms. I said, I think it's Man-at-Arms too. Because even in 2000X, as heavy-handed as they pushed it towards it, there was still a line where the sorceress says to Duncan in that, because I can hear Gary Chalk in my head saying it when she says, your daughter, and he goes, my adopted daughter. As in, even Duncan didn't know that he was her father. So in our version, we make that choice. Tila and Duncan were together, had a baby. She had to give all of that up. But the reason he says to Tila that she is his adopted daughter is because they knew that at some point she would have to abandon all of her connections. And the sorcerer says to her, I didn't want that for you. So that's why he was your adopted father, because it would be easier for you to separate. And I think that was one of those choices we made that I really stand by, because I felt like it's all born of emotion. It's all born of character. It's all born of, of what we were trying to accomplish with their stories.
And it hits so hard, because even on rewatching it, Colleen, my wife, was just like, God, I could never do that. It hits you on that primal level of just like, that is such a sacrifice to like leave your daughter behind, and then like, tear up for this life of having to cut all these ties, and like, and we got criticize the season or whatever. It's like, oh, Tila, she's too angry or whatever. It's like, good Lord, like look at everything she got put through in like a span of like 5 days or whatever. 2 years.
Part of the criticism is, oh, Tila can just do whatever she wants now. It's not about that there was a rule, right? That there was a rule that once you were a sorceress, you stayed the sword, and you're cursed, you're trapped. It was a calling, right? It was a deep spiritual commitment that they were making. And it's not like Tila broke the magic. She just said, I don't agree that I have to abandon the people that make me stronger. That was the whole story. Everybody, even Mega J, and I'm gonna take issues with Mega J Retro. In his breakdown of Revelation in his rewatch, he says that it's very uncharacteristic of Tila to have that outburst at the end of episode 1. Please, Mega J, go back and watch your filmation. Go back and watch The Dragon's Gift, when she snaps at the sorceress for not being able to heal Man-at-Arms right away, to the point where He-Man has to go, Tila, and the sorceress says she's upset, He-Man, and rightfully so. Like, That is exactly. And by the way, he was just Man-at-Arms was just turned to glass. It wasn't even like he was dead, or that he lied to her and then he died, and then everybody else around him were like, it was literally just, he's turned to glass. We have to figure out how to turn him back. That's all it was, and she was brat. The whole point of that was that the person that we met in the beginning in episode 1 is not able to be the sorceress. That is a girl that is still selfish, that is still a child, that is still acting on her base impulses, and does not have the capability to understand the world and the universe that she was then going to protect. The whole story, she has to say to Adam, I understand why you did it. I can't say it didn't hurt people, but I get it. She has to make all those amends. She makes the amends to Adam, to King Randor. She apologizes to King Randor. She apologizes to Man-at-Arms. That was her journey.
Yes.
Point where she said, don't you understand? These are the things that make me stronger. It's because I am part of these people. They don't have to keep things a secret. We don't have to keep things separate. We are stronger together. That's the whole thing. I don't know where people were getting all of this agenda politics and all of this stuff. It's like, no, we were just telling a story about a girl who was not ready to be the thing she was supposed to be, to the girl she was ready to be the thing she's supposed to be.
And it's a more compelling story. And it's not like it was just Tila. Every character had that.
Well, heroes have to be tested.
Yes, like
except
everyone.
The one person who didn't was HeMan, because he was already HeMan.
But even still, he had his growth with his father, like his daddy issues.
That's exactly right. But it was his father that had to come to terms with it.
Yeah.
It wasn't Adam. Adam was always Adam. What Adam had to do was say to Tila, I'm sorry I kept this from you. I'm sorry I kept this from you. And the bigger point was seeing the impact of this pure soul, of this bastion of what is better than all of us. Gone. What happens to the world when that is gone? So that when we got
that happens in real life. Like, think about family members that were like the key, they're like keeping everything, and if they pass away or something, the whole family goes to shit or whatever. It happens all the time.
I'd love to ask every person who complained that HeMan wasn't in that story, if they are a Christian. So I guess Jesus doesn't matter, right? Because he ain't around. Like, no, the impact is here. He is there. It is in every aspect. The way characters talk about them when they're not there shows the strength of those characters. So again, we knew where we were heading into Revolution. We wanted to give Adam a crisis of consciousness. What is it? What is it that he has to grapple with? Well, he has to grapple with the fact that he really likes being HeMan.
Who would?
And that's the heart of Revolution is do I do the thing that everybody expects of me, be the king, or do I do the thing that I'm really, really good at? And that's a real thing that people go through.
Absolutely.
But as Jay, you were saying, I mean, it is, these themes are reflected in so many characters across both seasons, right? Like, I feel like the storytelling principle of this show across both seasons, so what you're saying, Teddy, is like, to not only not try to make things out of whole cloth, but to truly like scan the ground and go, what are the seeds that have been planted here by the past versions of these stories across all the different forms of media across 40 years, right? What are these destinies that have been placed upon these characters? And what are the sort of central conflicts within them? What are the things that keep them kind of agitated? And in each of these, it's like, what is the precise test that will most challenge their sense of self, you know? And it's like, as you were saying, the Orko backstory is one of the only things that's also kind of like a demonstrable change from the Filmation canon of this notion of Orko always said, no, I'm actually really powerful on trauma. You know, in this way that felt a little bit like, you know, the kid in high school bragging about, you don't know how cool I am on the weekends.
I got a girlfriend in Canada.
My girlfriend Drielle, she's in Canada. She's a model.
But to that point, Griffin, that was always my issue. It's like, why does he stay on Eternia? He's the most powerful wizard on Svala. He's got family there. He's got a girlfriend. Why does he stay here then?
No, the answer is at that point, that is like, first and foremost, a comedic premise to the detriment of sort of deeper emotion character, right? And it's because it's like in that show, his main function was just to be funny, to make things go wrong, to be this sort of entry point for perhaps undersized children who are relating to the cooler world is happening above me. I'm a little small. I can't quite figure out how to do things. But I think in this way, if you're trying to dig in, what is the most interesting test for each of these characters? Well, if it's just Orko had it all figured out in Trala, and here nothing goes his way, but it's not his fault, and you just have to take his word for it, then there's no sort of inner conflict to this guy. What's so much more interesting is to place on him, unlike Tila, who has this destiny that she's slowly coming to terms with, unlike Adam, who has this destiny that he's pretty at peace with, right? Skeletor, who feels haunted by his inability to achieve what he thinks belongs to him. Orko had this destiny, this expectation placed on top of him that he just completely has failed to live up to. And you know, he's
like that. Or my name is Oracle reveal. Just like, damn.
What also is pulled from 2000X as well. Like that was that whole moment of, you know, when King Grayskull meets the Oracle. Like people are like, is that Orko? Was it another Trollan? And it's like.
But the way it was used in that episode, it hit for anybody that maybe had lofty expectations set upon them and maybe didn't live up to it in any way, whatever that reason was. Like, it just hit so hard.
Absolutely, yeah. And it is like, it makes him explicitly the guy who changed schools so that he can tell everyone that he was cooler at the old school. You know? And I think it gets to the core of what I always bumped as a fan and as a viewer, when they would sort of try to tie in, oh no, this is on Trala, he was powerful. I was like, that's going against what I like about the character, because what I like about him is that he's trying so hard in the face of failure. I like the sincerity of his effort, the selflessness of it, the commitment to it. And I find that so much more heroic when he actually kind of knows the deck is stacked against him. Not when he's like, well, usually I'm a lot better at this.
And by the way, that's why he stays, because to his friends, to Adam, to Duncan, to Tila, to all of them, it's not about what he can do. It's about who he is. And that is why they love him. And I think that when you can explore that and do that in a way, you don't need the hook of, well, I'm great in my home world. It's about who you are here in the here and now. So yes, to that Duncan and the Tila's time, or the sorceress's timeline of when she went in Grayskull, and Roboto being created by Duncan were the three big things we changed from Filmation lore. Like
but the Roboto, like with like that, just rewatching it, like just along like that line reading of just like, you know, I know I'm dying, but I'm actually happy because I actually am more like I am a miracle. Or it was so moving. Like, it was like, damn.
Well, not to be Orko-centric. Okay. No, I was just going to say, not to draw everything back to Orko, but I
see how it is. We got an agenda here.
I mean, we're not surprised.
There's this scene on the boat where he's talking about sort of like the guilt and the frustration, the shame he lives with, of feeling like he was the one who screwed up all these adventures, right? That he spent so long obsessing over all the things he did incorrectly. And then this period of time where all he now thinks about is how he wasn't enjoying those adventures enough. How he wasn't appreciating his time with those people, not knowing he was going to go through this extended period of isolation. And you know, almost all of the record sessions happened like January, February 2020. And then the show ends up coming out 2021. And there were pickups and, you know, rewrites that happened later. But like that monologue, I think, was not touched from when I recorded it in January or February. And then when I saw the show finally 18 months later or whatever, I like got choked up. Not because of my
you literally lived it.
I lived it, and I was just like, you know, here I've been locked inside an apartment and thinking about how many things I take for granted, my everyday life and my friends and my behaviors and whatever. And it's like, here's this weird, like, how none of us had the foresight to understand what we were speaking to. And then the beauty of his sort of final sacrifice being like, the greatest pride for him is that he's helping his friends.
Yes.
That he's found a way to actually help.
And even in
the tears, I'm a crier. I cry at movies and shows and stuff, but I got even rewatches.
And even in the truncated time of Revolution, like even in that moment when Orko says, "I won't let you down, He-Man," and he says, "You never could," like that, like there, we find ways to just sort of like reiterate those dynamics as best we can. So.
Yeah, you really do.
Stop talking about Orko, please.
Yeah, let's talk about
love of Zor.
Oh, can we talk about Gwildor?
Let's talk about Gwildor.
I will say, I think Gwildor got like the best joke deliveries. Like I feel like you got some of the best jokes to land.
I read a review that says I bring sass to Gwildor. much needed sass.
I think she's got the hots for him or whatever. Like that line was so good.
I was appreciative of all of those beautiful lines. I think I did write some of it. I wrote the part where he says, the universe is a delicate balanced symphony, one wrong note. And like, I just pulled all that stuff from, the way he thinks about the cosmos. That's all.
If you came off the top of your head, that's really impressive because it's a really good line. All right. We're kind of pushing on time here, so I don't want to probably start getting to shotgunning through some of these things. What about Granomir? So like again, I know you can't say anything about toys and stuff like that. You don't work for Mattel. Mattel wouldn't even say it anyway.
But I may have asked them for a Granomir as well.
I'm gonna keep banging that drum because it's so good.
We were
really good.
Teddy and I were
is so good.
We were going around Mattel 2 weeks ago, whatever it was.
I wish somebody filmed Griffin and I running through the design center,
pointing at stuff and being like,
"Oh my god!"
We saw
all the toys coming for the next year that we cannot talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can't talk about that is incredibly cool. But Teddy was like, "Please tell me you're making Granomir," and the Mattel design team was like, "Do you understand how big you made that character?" Like their response was kind of like, "You put us in a tough spot." Scale.
I will say, having watched it, I was thinking in my head, just seeing like in the faraway shots, like when it's Lynn and Tila there, I was like, oof, maybe like half it or something would still be effective.
You could do like a build a Granomir across 15 waves.
Yeah, no kidding. I think that look, if they Mattel was able to do a Granomir, it would have to be like, I don't know if it's a crowdfund, I don't know if it's a convention exclusive or something. Like it would have to be something like that. By the way, I was one of the last people to find out that Motherboard was getting a figure.
That's offensive that happened. That's unacceptable.
I was over the moon for that.
I was like, Motherboard's huge. She came out great.
Yeah.
Just do that. So I'm just like, Comic-Con this year, just give us Granomir and then we'll be happy.
No, I was telling them, like the Mattel team, that I was surprised when Motherboard wasn't a retail release until the moment she arrived. And I was like, oh, it's this big?
Yeah.
I get it.
I told Terry Higuchi, who's the lead over on the Masterverse line, I said, now that you've got the tooling for Motherboard, you can do her in transparent red when she talks to Hordak. And I was like, and you can make that a Target exclusive. And he was like, it's a good idea.
Not a bad idea. Translucent plastic always makes things cooler.
My one gripe with Motherboard is that she didn't come with a snap-on thing for her hand or insignia. So I'm gonna have
more tendrils, like more tendrils.
Well, I wish the tendrils were bendy wires. So that shot of her at the end of episode 3 when Adam's kneeling.
Yes.
Skeletor is like this, Hordak's sitting in the throne and Motherboard's above the throne. I'm like, the composition in that shot is so beautiful. That's my desktop at work.
Oh, it's a really cool desktop. Also, can we say the what's in the box moment for Motherboard?
What's in the box?
Amazing.
There's a lot of Fight Club. There's a lot of Fincher references in there. I mean, like you could tell that like everybody, like we're all fans of that stuff in there.
Well, I was like, oh no, she's in the box.
I said this on another YouTube show that Motherboard existed before this iteration of Motherboard, and she will exist beyond this iteration. That is a shell.
Oh yeah,
we have not seen the last of her. By the way, there's a lot of Motherboard, that was creeping all over Castle Grayskull too.
Well, listen, if we've now confirmed on this stream that doesn't matter how many times you're stabbed, you're gonna live, and if you're decapitated, you will still live.
So. Yeah, and these are rules for our real world that we live in as well, clearly. That's what we want to inform the youth of America.
No, don't do that.
No, we're telling you.
I heard Orko told me.
That was God. Do you remember? Of course, you remember Teddy. But there was the point where at one point in one version of the scripts there was an Orko lesson.
Yes. Oh, really?
For season 1.
For season 1, there was a lesson. Yes.
Ah.
I thought it was a clever weaving in to make it make sense in the reality of the.
I will say the way they wrote the 2 post-credit scenes in this, the way we start on Zodak's, today we had a lesson in balance. I was like, I think people were like, and then it turned out that he was talking to Evil Lynn.
I love that Lynn, I was assuming like neutral Lynn is
neutral Lynn's a good term.
Yeah, but I just love that she's joining them. Like that works out perfectly.
Well, I mean, that, again, pulled right from Formation. That's from the Golden Discs of Knowledge when Xanthor, literally gave Skeletor all of the knowledge of the universe, and then he redeemed himself and all that. So we thought that what a great perspective of someone who has truly walked both sides of the equilibrium to be a cosmic enforcer. Like it's just natural. And then in the beautiful mini comic that they were doing for the anniversaries, Axel had designed a female cosmic enforcer in navy blue, and it was kind of like he was in our brains already. So we were like, that's Evil Lynn. Like, of course it is. And by the way, we've been calling her Zalin, because like Lynn of Zalatia. So that's kind of like, so it's, Zodak, Xanthor, Zalin. Just, that's not official. That's just what we.
Nope, it's confirmed here officially.
No, it's not confirmed. It's not confirmed until it's confirmed. But it's kind of like what we've been referring to her as. But that was like a really cool moment. I love the sort of, there is this interesting camp of people who think that Evil Lynn, is irredeemable. She should, there is no way she should be let off for that. No way. She, but at the same time, they think that Tila, like Adam should be forgiven for lying to Tila. That, all of that. Oh, no. She shouldn't have taken it that hard. Like that. Yeah. No, punish the woman. She's a witch. But like,
well, listen, the Preternia is back, Valhalla's back, everything's fine. It all worked out.
Everything is back. And by the way, this is the beauty of this kind of storytelling, is you change it enough for the story, but by the end, it's kind of still the thing that you love. It's also even for Revelation, like you go back and you watch Revelation. Yes, we go off on all these weird roads to get you to a place where everybody is sort of the same at the very end.
You get back to a status quo that's like 10% different.
Yeah, it's that old like Harmon. What's his?
Yes. The story circle. You come back having changed. Yeah.
Exactly it. That's exactly it.
Yeah. You go back home and you've learned a little something along the way. Right.
And that's where, to me, but at least it's doing something and it's pushing it in a direction, and it feels like it's continuing, because I was chatting with Dan Larson the other day and we were just talking about that. And I think it's just something that I really appreciate about this series is that it feels like Masters of the Universe, but it is pushing it forward, in my opinion, a really compelling way. And I sincerely appreciate it. I think it's fantastic. I hope we get a season 3.
You got to tell the big red end that you love it. I mean,
I
watch it, and you got to
letter campaign. Like, what are we doing? Like, what do I go buy Subway sandwiches? Are we doing old school?
I will say it because he can't say it, but Teddy told me casually last week or 2 weeks ago what sort of the idea is, which I had not heard the pitch, and it is so good and so cool and so satisfying. There was so much in it. Him just giving me the bullet points of the big ideas. It would be frustrating if folks did not get to see that.
And there's also the prequel comic that Rob and Tim and I that is dropping in the spring, that will fill in a lot of the Hordak Skeletor backstory. Nice. I think that obviously we didn't have time for it here, but if we did have time to animate all of this, it would have felt like a sidetrack. The story that we told in Revolution is the story that we told in Revolution. Yeah. What we tell in the backstory is the backstory, and it's all of the sort of the the meat that you need. Yes, if you watch Revolution after you read the mini comic, it's you'll get much more color into their dynamic. But what you won't get is the surprise and the delight of the ride of what Revolution is telling you, because you'll be thinking of all the stuff that you're filling in.
Yeah. Yep. 100% agree. Last question. You're both toy geeks. What's like, how surreal, because we talked a little bit at the beginning, but you have figures of yourselves. Like, how surreal is it to be a toy collector, an enthusiast, and to now, and Teddy, you get to play too now, because now you have one. Like, how surreal is it to freaking have action figures of yourselves?
Well, did you ever get an Arthur figure? Did they ever?
I did not. Which is
you never got an Arthur figure? Oh, damn.
It's a really big frustration in my life. I didn't even get the Funko. There was the most frustrating part.
And everybody gets a Funko.
I know. Trust me. The email exchanges. The most frustrating part of it is I was at one point sent photos of a sculpt for likeness approval.
Oh,
it was like so close.
Yeah.
And I think a whole mess of things happened. But no, I mean, it's funny because it's like that was it never made it to production, but I saw this sculpt that was trying to do its best to replicate my face, my stupid face. And I look at this Orco now that is obviously based off a drawing.
Sure. And it looks so much more like you.
I was saying this to Teddy the other day, but I do look at it and I don't go like, that's the character I play. I go like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Like as if I'm looking at a photo I'm tagged in. I do feel that weird sense of, yes. Same. When I got the
likeness they did was incredible. Using photo scan technology, like what are they doing?
When I got the part after much campaigning, and
I literally showed up on my doorstep with a boombox.
But I sent my sister growing up with me knew that I was such a big MOTU fan, but didn't know the characters intimately. I said, I got cast in the HeMan show, and she went, "Oh my God, who are you playing?" And I sent her the photo, and she went, "Oh, he looks like you." And at the time, I was like, I don't know if that's an insult. And now I look at it, and I'm like, oh, this is an action figure of me, my body. This is how my face looks. No, it's incredibly surreal. It's like it's so cool to have. I think I don't know if you feel the same way, Teddy. I haven't gotten this experience with this set yet, but I got it with the Savage HeMan set. The coolest thing, almost more than owning it, having it, playing with it, is like walking into stores and seeing it on the shelves.
Yeah.
And after like decades of the experience of toy hunting,
and
that thrill of like looking for the thing,
to
see a depiction, a version of you, a thing that you helped make.
This is so
that's cool.
That's cool.
What's that?
I was a Transformer. I was Octopunch in Transformers Robots in Disguise. Never got a figure. I was in the Nickelodeon 2012 reboot of Ninja Turtles. I was Scumbug. Never got a figure. I was Loki in Marvel's Superhero Squad. I do have a figure of him.
Oh, okay. All right.
That was like my first time where I was like, oh my God, that's me. That's my thing. My mother was like, oh, that's cute. He didn't get it. So this though, like if my mom was still alive, like my mom took me to see Master Universe. Like I think that would have been like kind of like a like.
Yeah.
It's just it will never not be. I use the word bliss, right? Like that's really it. It's just it's like this is crazy. This is nuts. As somebody who loves Masters of the Universe so much, like it's one thing to have been a part of bringing a version of it to life. It's another thing to be in the world of Masters of the Universe where your character, and I talk about this with Kevin a little bit, and like that kid who used to play with HeMan has a scene with HeMan now, and that's like I'm getting a little emotional, but like that's like it's like crazy. That's like crazy. Like
I don't know if you feel this way as well, Teddy. You've gotten to work on so many different brands that you're like a fan of. I know MOTU being like the top of the mountain, but there's this feeling where you're like, okay, I'm a professional. I'm doing my job. I understand what I've been assigned to do today. And then at moments you're like, this can't be real if I'm part of it, where it starts to feel like the reality crumbles and you're like, I'm playing in my backyard.
Yeah.
Because if I'm part of this, if I'm wearing the costume or I'm doing the voice or I'm interacting with these characters, that feels like some line has gotten like blurred.
Well, for the longest time, people in my position, you know, in Hollywood, you know, there is a, I don't want to use the word disdain, but they sort of take people like us for granted. Like, you don't have to make it good. They'll just show up.
Yeah, like just the business, the suits that actually don't appreciate the thing.
Yeah, like
the line item or whatever.
Show up. You know, they'll just show up just because you're making something.
Yeah.
And I know that that's not true because I won't just show up.
Right.
I want it to be great. I want it to be special. I want it to be different. I know that Revelation was divisive. I know that. I can't help that. I can't help the entry points that people had when they came into this brand, so that what we did doesn't resonate with them, or they craft on some sort of agenda that we never even thought of until they brought it up. That, you know, I can't change any of that. All I can do is know that we went into this with the intention to tell a rich, layered, emotional, sophisticated story about the characters that we loved. And I think we did it.
Yeah. I was saying this to someone the other day, but it's like, look, the people who dislike the show, I've read too many of their takes. Oh. I've read too many of the comments. I've watched too many of the videos.
That's a dark tunnel to go down.
I'm too online in a general sense. And when I'm part of a thing that enters that level of discourse, I'm like, these are the corners of the internet I'm already lurking on. You know, these are the message boards I'm already on, channels I'm already watching. Not all of them, but you know, these points, whatever. And it's like, you know, there can be criticisms of the show that I disagree with, but I'm like, absolutely entitled to your opinion. It's not any more valid than my own.
Sure.
You know, I watch this thing as a fan, even though I'm obviously biased because I'm part of it, but I still, when I get to read the scripts for the first time, I'm engaging with them as if I'm watching an episode for the first time going, oh my God, I can't wait to see what happens next. The only thing that actually bums me out seriously is when there's the sort of like the assigning of intent.
Yes.
Of the assumption of this is what they were trying to do for this reason. And as Teddy said, it's like, you can hate everything about the show if you want to. And that is like beyond valid. But everyone who worked on this cares so much about this, an absurd amount. This is a show that is like really, truly a labor of love. And, you know, Teddy is as encyclopedic about MOTU history as anyone on the face of the planet.
Yes. If I have a question, I'll ask Teddy. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And by the way,
I'll get an encyclopedic response.
There are plenty of people who know more than I do. And like, for example, I did not know King Miro's wife's name. And I called Danielle Galera.
That's how to stump you in trivia.
Who wrote some of the Bible, the bios. And I called her up and I said, does Miro's wife have a name? I for the life of me can't think of it. And Danielle was like, I know exactly what her name is. And she was like, and I was like, okay, by the way, guys, her name is Amelia. Everybody, just so we know, it's Queen Amelia. But it's like, if I don't know it, I know who to ask.
That's, you know what? That's very wise words of wisdom to pass and kind of close things out here. I will just say for myself to you both, like, being fans of something and then going into it, like the weight of that, I could easily see kind of would lessen or could lessen a performance. But I think what you all should be proud of is that not only are you fans and you're going into it and you have that weight on your shoulders, but you excelled in that environment.
Kind of you to say.
I just both of your performances, Teddy as an executive producer as well, just knockout.
Not doing the thing.
Oh, you not have you gotta have reactions turned on if you want the heart. Yeah, you gotta turn them on.
I feel like I'm doing it wrong. There we go. I had it inverted. No, I mean, it speaks a lot to my psychology. But when you're talking about like how to not fall under the burden of expectation, I truly just have this dialogue with myself where I'm like, imagine screwing this up, how angry you would be at you watching it.
Yeah.
And just don't piss that guy off.
Also, what helps is I think we genuinely care about each other. We genuinely like each other. We see, not unlike Orko and Gwildor, we see a little bit of each of ourselves in each other. Sure. And I think that really does bring
no, I mean, we
over into the roles.
connected over toys before I was officially working on the show, before I was unofficially working on the show, before I was involved in the show in any capacity. We connected over toys online. And you asking how the chemistry fits together there, I do think there is some weird, like, invisible act of Teddy and I both kind of had a sense of how to play off the other person, even though it was happening siloed.
It worked. It really worked. Well, I know we could talk for like 10 hours, but alas, we don't have that kind of time. Thank you both so much for coming on and doing this. I know you're both incredibly busy. I'm sure you're going to be on like 75 different live streams over the coming weeks, or shows or interviews or whatever. But
everyone is special.
What's that?
Yeah, everyone is special.
Everyone is special.
Everyone is the most special. They're all equally the most special.
That was you sold me. I believed it. I believed every word of it. Griffin, you doing another live stream, at least within the toy tuber community, coming up, right? Is that officially announced?
Yes. I'm forgetting what is live and what is pre-taped, but I have a handful of them.
Well, guys, actually, it'll already happen. Never mind. Whatever.
Yeah.
Time is weird.
Time is a flat.
There'll be other stuff out there.
Dad at Arms and For Eternia, and doing a stream with Dan Larson and Pixel Dan together.
Nice.
2 Dans.
Holy cow! Holy cow!
Got Dan squared. That's a tour de force.
Yeah.
That's I'll watch that.
That actually gets Teddy out of bed. 2 Dans, he tunes in.
Yeah, whenever Teddy's like, I actually watched this time. I was like, oh, thanks, Teddy. I appreciate it.
No, I often watch. I rarely get to watch it live. I usually watch it the following day. So when I'm actually sitting on the couch on a Sunday night, I'm like, oh, I can watch Toy Geeks.
I was watching the Ghostbusters Plasma Series stream. Where
and like Teddy's
you were
like all over
commenting
it.
away. Yeah.
That's how you know.
That's how you know.
I don't shut up.
Yeah.
But yeah, great takes. They were good takes. They had to be plussed in. All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. And until next time, hasta luego and goodbye. Have a good night, everybody.
Good journey.
Bye.